Hi guys, it's Intense Angler here. I wanted to talk today about kind of a serious topic, and the topic I want to talk about was survival. And I'm not gonna be doing any little tricks today. I'm not gonna be showing you how to make a fire with sticks. I'm not gonna be showing you how to make a shelter. I'm not gonna be showing you how to, fish for your food or anything. I wanted to talk a little bit about I guess more of what lies behind all that stuff, and I wanted to focus on kind of the broader aspect of it, not just that, how do you survive a night out in the woods. I wanted to just talk about survival, and for the purposes of this, I'm going to be talking about the outdoors mostly, but this could apply to anything. It could be breaking your legs in the backcountry on a hiking trip. It could be coping with cancer, surviving a rough divorce, loss of a career. Applies to everything. Survivors have the same traits in common and typically follow the same patterns, and that's what I wanted to talk today about. Don't get me wrong, I do love the survival skills, and I find them fascinating and useful. But like I said, I personally feel that there's a lot of stuff driving that kind of that's just a small part of it, from my standpoint. And I do speak from experience. I have been in situations where I've had to call upon inner resources to be able to, get out of those situations, or at least make it through them, kind of in one piece, or, going down a new road. And so that's kind of what I'm going to draw on when I talk today, is just about my personal experience and some of my own thoughts behind it. And I do welcome any comments, what your thoughts are, around some of what I have to share today, as I always do. Well, in my mind, there's a few different factors that go into surviving. And there's actually a lot. It's a really complex system that's at play when you're in a survival situation. But I kind of want to boil it down to just three areas, and those areas are prevention, preparation, and action. And like I said, there's a lot of other categories, but for the purposes of what I'm going to talk about, I'm going to just kind of review those three areas and how I feel a person goes through that whole cycle of getting into a situation in the first place, being prepared to make it out of that situation, and kind of how we go about doing that. How we find ourselves one minute, strolling through life carefree, and the next minute, be kind of in the depths of a despairing situation, and then find ourselves coming out the other side of that, to ultimately what turns out to be a life-changing, situation. The first aspect that I wanted to discuss was the prevention. It's always better to not be in a situation, obviously, than it is to have to deal with the situation once you're in it. And there's a lot that comes into play as far as prevention goes, and you could use pretty much any example. But what I'm really talking about when I talk about prevention is kind of knowing yourself and knowing your limitations. And like I said, that could apply to anything. If I am, just say my job or something, I have to know what I'm doing, and I have to know my environment that I'm working in. And if my job is something that's expendable, I want to make myself more valuable to my employer, and in my industry. And so that's, I guess, one way to look at prevention is kind of a little bit of forethought. And I'm not suggesting worrying or projecting worst possible outcomes. I'm just kind of, it's like insurance, I guess. You kind of think ahead of what may happen and kind of prepare to so that doesn't happen. Prepare to make minor adjustments and maximize your chances of something not happening. So Um, and one of the ways that I feel people get into the most trouble, especially in the outdoors, is exceeding your limitations. The way I guess I could explain that best is this year we've had a lot of reports. It seems like once a week on the news all winter long there's been missing hiker, the search is on, and just last week it was three snowboarders, I can't talk. Just last week it was three snowboarders at a local ski resort just 20 minutes outside of town here, and they were lost overnight. Like I said, it's been basically one story a week all winter long, and probably 70% of them, the end result was not good. They found the person or persons deceased. And from following all these stories, what I gathered out of all that, what I saw as the common denominator and all that, was these people were out for specific purposes and ended up doing something that exceeded their personal limitations. Now, in the case of the snowboarders that I was talking about, they were younger guys. They were experienced snowboarders, for the purposes of the ski lodge and the mountain that they were on, inbound snowboarding. They were geared up, they were set, they had that down, they knew what they were doing, they were within their limitations. What they decided to do was go out of bounds, and that exceeded their expectation, or their limitations rather. And so they went out of bounds, got well away from the resort, and just got enjoying what they were doing and lost track of their environment and what they were in. And they soon found themselves in a situation which exceeded their limitations. And they got into a situation where they luckily they hunkered down. They did make it through the night, and the search party found them the next day. And another example is a couple months ago, I think it was in Oregon, there was a lady or a couple ladies that are out mushroom picking, really not a lot of outdoors experience. Went, parked the car, went up on the hillside to gather some mushrooms, and went a little too far off trail. Now, in that case, the limitation was not a lot of outdoor experience, near the car, so there was not a lot of off-trail, experience there. And so she ended up getting lost really easily, and the outcome in that case was not as good. Unfortunately, that lady was found deceased. And anyway, I guess what I'm trying to get at here is that it's great, and I think one of the things that we love about the outdoors and some of the pursuits that we go after there is the adventure factor. And what I'm trying to say is that there's a fine line between adventure and exceeding your limitations. We got to know where that boundary is, and it's so shady that it's really hard sometimes, and we do step over it. And so it's, I guess, my take on it is just being able to go out and have fun and push your boundaries a little bit. That's how we learn, that's how we grow, that's how we get that adrenaline pumping. It serves a lot of purposes, in our lives, whether it be outdoors or in any other avenue at work. We grow, we push the boundaries a little bit, and we keep moving forward. And there's just such a fine line between doing that and stepping over a line that you can't come back from, And anyway, I think that's what leads us into the second area that I wanted to talk about, and that is preparation. So preparation is pretty self-explanatory. I'm not going to go too much into that here. We all pretty much know what that means, and there's about 10 million videos on YouTube about the preparation factor. And here's where we start talking about, how do you make a fire, how do you make a shelter, how do you navigate, how do you signal help, all these things, and so that those things all are a factor. Those things are important, and some people find that to be kind of like survival, I guess, is like an out there concept. There's these hardcore survival guys, And so people will tend to avoid acquiring some of the skills because they don't want to be grouped in with that category. And in a way, that's kind of it's kind of limiting to yourself, because we do that in all other areas of our life. And just to use an example, I mean, say CPR. That's a really good example. A lot of us, I know myself, I'm CPR trained and certified, and I've never had to use that skill, and I hope I never will. I work with people, that's my career, and so it's something that I may need someday. I'm hoping I never do. In the event that I do, I'm prepared and I'm confident in that skill. And that is the key point here, is once we do things, we learn them and then we practice them, then when we're in the situation where we need them, we can act. We don't have to just stand on the sidelines and let whatever happens happen. We can do something about it. Now, like I said, using the CPR example, if somebody, you know, if I come across somebody that is going to require that skill, I'm able to not think and just act and do that, and hopefully save that person's life. Same thing applies if I know how to build a shelter or make a fire or whatever else it is. If I know those skills and I practice them and I'm confident with them, when I'm in that situation, I don't need to panic. I know the skills, I can take the action, and hopefully the life I save is my own.